The night I realized something was wrong with Olivia Grant wasn't during the case itself. It was the moment her voice hit my voicemail at 2 in the morning, calm as a surgeon, asking me to prove she didn't kill her boyfriend. If you're new here, hit subscribe and drop a like. This one's a slow-motion train wreck, and trust me, you'll want front row seats. I've been a private investigator for over a decade, and I've learned a simple truth. Families hate loose ends more than they hate bad news. So when the Crawford family asked me to dig into the death of their patriarch, Richard Crawford, I already knew how this would go. 58 years old, hedge fund founder, obsessive runner, borderline health nut, drops dead of a heart attack in his penthouse gym. Happens every day in America. Happens so often doctors barely blink. But then you add Olivia, 23, a wellness influencer, which is corporate speak for posts bendy photos and expensive yoga sets. Gorgeous, popular, and, according to Richard's kids, a gold digger with the patience of a saint and the morals of a fox in the henhouse. They were convinced she'd poisoned him, suffocated him, hired someone something. They didn't care what. They wanted me to care. I tried pushing back. Heart attacks don't need conspiracies, I told them. Just stress, genetics, and a little bad luck. But they waved a check at me that made my monthly retainer blush. I'm not in the business of milking grieving families, so we settled on a 7-day window. If I found nothing, I walked. Richard and Olivia had been together 11 months, long enough for the tabloids to start chirping, but not long enough to put her in the will. That alone told me she had nothing material to gain from his death. No inheritance, no trust fund, no condo, not even the dog. Still, something in the numbers didn't add up. 2 months before he died, Richard started transferring obscene chunks of money, 6 figures at a time, to a private banking branch in the Cayman Islands. The kind of account built for people who like secrets more than sunlight. And the beneficiary, completely masked. Even my best contacts couldn't crack it. When I asked Olivia, she blinked at me like I just asked her about quantum physics. "I don't know anything about that," she said. "Richard handled his own finances. He didn't hide things from me." A lie? Maybe. But her tone wasn't defensive, it was disappointed, like she wished she did know something. I was ready to chalk the case up to misplaced grief, until the tape landed in my inbox. One of Richard's sons filed a request for the 911 audio from the night he died. I've listened to hundreds of emergency calls, panicked, hysterical, incoherent. People plead, beg, scream, forget their own address. It's human nature to fall apart when mortality walks in. But Olivia didn't fall apart. She didn't cry. She didn't shout. She didn't so much as breathe hard. What she didn't do was give the dispatcher the damn address. For nearly 25 minutes, she acted like she'd never stepped foot in the penthouse where she basically lived. She described his symptoms perfectly, down to the numbness in his left arm, and counted fake chest compressions out loud with the EMT on the line, without her voice dipping or straining the way it always does when someone's actually performing CPR. She knew exactly what was happening to him, and she let the seconds bleed out like they meant nothing. By the time the paramedics arrived, Richard was gone. And for the first time, the questions started pointing in her direction, not as a murderer, but as something colder. Someone who let a dying man die. If you think Olivia's strange 911 call was the worst part, buckle up. It was just the crack in the door. What waited behind it was the kind of darkness you don't forget easily. Before we dive in, smash that like button and subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. I started day 2 of the investigation by reviewing the building's access logs. Crawford Tower was a fortress disguised as luxury real estate, retina scanners, 24/7 guards, elevator cards coded to individual floors. Nothing happened there without a digital footprint. Richard entered the penthouse at 6:12 p.m. Olivia entered at 7:03 p.m. Paramedics were called at 8:28 p.m. So far it tracked with her story. But here's the part she didn't mention. She left the building 3 separate times earlier that day. 9:41 a.m., 11:12 a.m., 1:07 p.m. each time she was outside for less than 10 minutes. Quick, jittery, in-and-out movements that screamed of either anxiety or preparation. When I asked the lobby staff, one of the concierges, a quiet, stiff-backed guy named Miguel, told me she wasn't alone during those trips. Apparently she'd met someone outside. Same person each time. Short interactions, no names exchanged. That alone wasn't enough to draw conclusions. People meet delivery drivers. Influencers meet photographers, sponsors, stylists. But the pattern smelled wrong. I checked the cameras. The footage had been overwritten. That wasn't standard. Crawford Tower kept at least a week of recordings. Someone had manually purged the feeds from that day. Not all of them, just the clips involving Olivia. And the only people with access to the security system were the guards and Richard. At that point, I knew two things. Richard had something going on behind the scenes. Olivia wanted it buried. I pushed deeper into the financial records. The Cayman transfers weren't the only anomalies. 2 days before his death, Richard wired $60,000 to a private investigator in Phoenix. The file was sealed. No invoice description. No follow-up communication. Why would a pie from the Arizona desert be involved with a New York hedge fund mogul? And why pay him $60,000 right before collapsing in your own home? I called the number listed on the invoice. Disconnected. I called 3 contacts in Phoenix. None recognized the name. I checked licensure databases. Nothing. Whoever Richard had hired wasn't a pie, not anymore, if he ever had been. That's when it clicked. New York, Cayman accounts, purged security, a dead fund manager with millions in offshore holdings. Whatever this was, it wasn't about romance or jealousy. It was about leverage, maybe even blackmail. Richard hadn't been hiding money from his wife, she was long gone. He was hiding it from someone else, someone who wanted more. And Olivia, she wasn't a mastermind, she wasn't a killer, she was a key. A pretty, pliable key someone else was using to unlock his accounts. And the night Richard finally pushed back, his heart just happened to give out. But even with all that, the timeline still had one hole. What exactly was she doing during those missing 25 minutes while Richard was dying? I needed to hear her answer myself, so I called Olivia. Her tone was bright, too bright. "Oh, hi, have you found anything?" "Yeah," I said. "We need to talk in person." Silence. Now, she hesitated for a fraction of a second before answering. "Okay, but not at the penthouse. There's a cafe on 12th, booth in the back." She was scared, not of me, of the truth I was getting close to. And when a client gets scared this early in the game, it means one thing: somebody else is about to make a move. When a client insists on picking the meeting spot, you assume one of two things. They're either scared someone's watching them, or they're setting you up. Before we dig in, hit subscribe and drop a like. Trust me, this chapter gets messy. The cafe on 12th was one of those places that pretends to be vintage but smells like new paint and overpriced pastries. Olivia was already in the back booth, hood up, sunglasses on, trying to look ordinary. She stuck out like a neon sign. I slid into the seat across from her. "You didn't tell me you left the building 3 times the day Richard died," I said, no sugarcoating. She stiffened. I needed air. Funny, the cameras for those exact windows of time were wiped. Her jaw tightened. No panic, just calculation. The kind you see in people who already know more than they want to admit. "Why would I erase cameras?" she asked. "You tell me." She stayed quiet. Not guilty quiet, cornered quiet. I tried another angle. "Who were you meeting outside?" This time I got a reaction. A small one, but unmistakable. Her fingers froze mid-tap against the mug. "Don't lie," I added. "I talked to the concierge." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "If I tell you, will you protect me?" That's the kind of sentence that shifts an investigation into a different lane. It means there's a bigger player in the game. "I'm not your lawyer," I said, "but I can't help you if I don't know what's happening." She leaned in so close I could smell the peppermint gum on her breath. "He wasn't my ex. He wasn't a friend. He wasn't a dealer or a trainer. He was someone Richard owed money to." "Name?" "I don't know his name. Everyone called him Marlowe." My stomach tightened. Marlowe wasn't a name, it was a shadow. I'd heard it whispered a couple times in financial fraud circles. A fixer, a collector, someone you hire when money needs to move quietly or people need to disappear loudly. No confirmation he existed, just stories. What did he want from you? Access, she said. Richard trusted me. I could get into his devices, his office, his schedule. I didn't want to help at first, but Marlowe, she swallowed hard. He made it clear I didn't have a choice. Blackmail. Worse. She pushed her sunglasses up just enough for me to see the faint yellow-green traces of fading bruises along her cheekbone, carefully concealed but not invisible. Marlowe said Richard was hiding money, she continued, that he'd been moving assets offshore. He told me to get what he needed or he'd take it out of my skin. And you believed him. She met my eyes. If you'd met him once, you would too. I leaned back. The Cayman accounts made sense now. The wiped footage made sense. Even the coldness in her 911 call made a twisted sort of sense. Fear can freeze you solid. But there was still one thing that didn't add up. If Marlowe wanted access, why kill Richard? That cuts off the money flow. She shook her head. I don't think that was the plan. Richard told me a week before he died that he was done paying. He said he'd already hired someone to dig into Marlowe and shut him down. And then he collapses in his own home. Exactly, I stared at her. You think Marlowe did it? She didn't say yes. She didn't need to. Then she added something that iced my blood. Marlowe called me the morning after Richard died. He said, "Good, that part's done. Now we settle your debt." What debt? She looked down. He said I owed him $1 million. Her voice barely rose above the cafe hum, but the tremor in it was unmistakable. And he said if I didn't pay, she paused, he'd make me watch someone else die. My phone buzzed on the table. Unknown number. One text, stop digging, and then another, SHE's next. The moment I saw those texts, every instinct from my earlier career kicked in. Threats aren't noise in my line of work, they're data. And this one read like someone who wasn't bluffing. Before we roll forward, hit subscribe and throw a like. This case was a wildfire, and this is where the heat spikes. Olivia's eyes locked onto my phone. She didn't ask what the messages said. She didn't need to. Marlowe, she whispered. Someone who thinks I scare easily. I stood, tossing enough cash on the table to cover her untouched drink. We're leaving. Now, the cafe's big front windows felt like crosshairs. I walked her out the side door, the kind used for deliveries. Less predictable. My car was parked 3 blocks away, so we moved fast. Olivia kept checking over her shoulder every few steps. She wasn't acting. This was survival mode. Tell me something, I said as we turned a corner. Why didn't you go to the police? Her laugh cracked. What would I say? Hi, officers, there's a man with no last name who forces influencers to steal financial data. They'd think I was insane. She wasn't wrong. Cases like this die in intake desks. Give me something concrete, I pressed. Where did you meet Marlowe? How did he make contact? He showed up at a brand event I was hosting, she said, pulled me aside, said Richard owed him money, said I could help clear it. And you believed him on the spot. It took her a few seconds to answer. No, she finally said. But the next day someone broke into my apartment. Nothing stolen, just things moved, clothes cut, a note on my pillow, don't waste time. That tracked. Fear as leverage, pain as persuasion. We were half a block from my car when Olivia stopped dead. Her grip clamped around my arm hard enough to sting. That's his car. A dark gray sedan idled across the street, windows tinted darker than legal, engine running. No plates. I didn't see a driver, just the silhouette of someone watching us. Keep walking, I said. Slow, don't look again. We moved. I unlocked my car without breaking stride and pushed her into the passenger seat. The sedan didn't move, didn't creep, didn't chase. Predators don't rush. They wait. I pulled away from the curb, taking 2 quick lefts and a right to break line of sight. Only when we merged with traffic did Olivia finally breathe. What now? She asked. Now, I said. We stop reacting and start disrupting. I drove us to a rental storage facility I used whenever I needed neutral ground. No cameras at the entrances, no names on the units. Inside my storage room, I kept a folding table, 2 chairs, and a lockbox with backup gear, burner phones, a laptop, a signal jammer, the basics. I handed Olivia water, then powered up the laptop. "We're going to map every contact point you've had with Marlowe," I said. "Dates, places, messages, anything." But he always used blocked numbers. "Blocked numbers don't matter, behavior does." She nodded, still trembling. Before she could speak again, my phone buzzed. Same number as before. One message: "You can't protect her." And then a second: "Check your car." My stomach dropped. I stepped outside the storage unit, jogged to where my car sat under the flickering security light, and froze. A small object was tucked under the windshield wiper. A single AirTag. Not mine. Someone wanted me to know exactly how close they could get. Finding that AirTag wasn't the scary part. The scary part was how casually it sat there, like a calling card from someone who wanted me to feel hunted. Before we jump in, hit subscribe and drop a like. This chapter, it's where the walls start closing in. I slipped the AirTag into a lead-lined pouch I kept for exactly this kind of headache, then headed back inside the storage unit. Olivia was pacing like a trapped bird. "What was it?" she asked. "A reminder," I said. "He's watching both of us," her face drained. "I told you he doesn't stop." I pulled out 2 burner phones. "No more personal devices, we go dark." Olivia hugged herself like she was fighting off a chill. "Is this really happening? I feel like I'm in a movie." "Movies end in 2 hours," I said. "Real life drags people under." I sat her down and opened the laptop. I needed a timeline, clean, tight, surgical. Every time Marlowe contacted her, every interaction with Richard, every unexplained movement. But patterns don't come from miracles. They come from patience. "Start from the beginning," I said. "The event where he approached you." She walked me through it, step by step. The brand sponsor, the rooftop lights, the crowd, and then Marlowe. "He knew my name," she said. "Knew Richard's schedule, knew about the offshore money. He wasn't guessing." "Did he ever threaten Richard directly?" "No, he said Richard already knew the rules." That stuck with me. Rules mean structure. Structure means organization. Marlowe wasn't a lone wolf. He worked for someone. "Did Richard ever talk about enemies?" I asked. Her eyes flicked away just for a second. "Olivia," she exhaled. "He mentioned someone he used to do business with, a guy named Lambert. Said Lambert held grudges like other people drink coffee." Lambert. That name I knew. A financier who'd vanished after a fraud investigation. Rumor was he resurfaced under a new identity, running shell companies overseas. And if Lambert was pulling Marlowe's strings, this wasn't extortion. This was asset recovery by a ghost. I was connecting dots when something hit me. "Olivia, did Richard ever tell you why he stopped paying?" She hesitated. "Too long." "He said he had leverage," she finally said. "Something Lambert didn't want anyone to see." "What kind of leverage?" "I don't know, he never showed me." Of course he didn't. People like Richard hide their secrets in layers. I stood and started pacing. If Lambert thought Richard might expose him, killing Richard wouldn't be about money, it'd be preventative. Olivia swallowed. "Then why come after me?" "Because you were close enough to access whatever he was hiding." The room felt smaller. Airtighter, Olivia whispered, "Do you think he'll kill me?" "Not yet," I said. "If he wanted you dead today, he wouldn't be texting warnings." She blinked. "So what does he want?" "Control." I didn't say the next part out loud. Control always comes before elimination. Before I could dig further, Olivia's burner phone buzzed. She flinched like she'd been shot. One message. "Bring her, tonight." Below it, an address on the Hudson. A warehouse. My stomach tightened. And then the second message dropped. "Come alone or I end her where she sits." Olivia looked at me, terrified. "What do we do?" she whispered. I didn't hesitate. "We don't walk into his trap." But even as I said it, I felt the shape of a plan forming, dangerous, thin, desperate. The kind that either saves a client or buries you next to them. There's a moment in every high-risk case where you stop pretending you're in control and start managing chaos instead. Before we dive into this one, hit subscribe and drop a like, because from here on, the wheels come off. I stared at the warehouse address on the burner screen. Empty industrial stretch along the Hudson, half the buildings condemned, the other half rented under companies that didn't exist. Classic ambush territory. Olivia was shaking. If we don't go, he'll kill me. He'll kill you if we go, I countered. But he wants something first, information, access, leverage. That buys us time. She sank into the folding chair. I can't do this. You already are. I stepped outside the storage unit and scanned the lot. No cars, no silhouettes, no movement. Still, Marlowe had proven he could get close without leaving footprints. Every second we wasted was another second he might close the gap. I went to the trunk of my car and pulled my emergency kit. Nothing dramatic, just low-tech tools built from years of work. A tactical flashlight, lock picks, a compact pry bar, a knife, 2 burner cams, and a radio mic. When I came back inside, Olivia looked at the gear like it was contraband. "You're not going alone," she said. "I absolutely am." "No," she stood. "I'm the one he wants. And that's exactly why you're staying out of his sight." I laid out the plan, simple, brutal, borderline suicidal. I'd scout the warehouse first. I'd plant cams to map positions. If Marlowe showed, I'd stall long enough to confirm what he wanted. Olivia would stay hidden, radio silent. If anything went sideways, she ran. No hesitation. She nodded slowly, but I could see the terror tightening her jaw. "You trust me?" I asked. "I don't trust anyone," she whispered. "But you're all I've got." "Fair enough." We waited until midnight, less traffic, fewer eyes. Then I backed the car out of the lot, killed my headlights at the corner, and drove the rest of the route half the way on side streets. The warehouse looked exactly like I expected. Dead windows, rusted siding, one flickering exterior bulb. The kind of place where screams wouldn't echo far. I parked 2 blocks away. Olivia stayed in the backseat, hood up, shaking. I handed her the spare burner. "Only answer if I say your name." She nodded. I slipped out, hugging the shadows, moving fast but quiet. Old habits. Marine intel dies hard. When I reached the warehouse, I crouched beneath a broken window, listening. Nothing. Not silence, nothing. Real silence has pressure. This felt hollow. I planted the first microcam under the window frame, then crept along the wall to the side door. Locked. I picked it in under a minute and slipped in. That's when my radio crackled. A voice. Low, calm. "Turn around." My blood iced. He was behind me. I turned slowly. A man stood about 20 feet away, hands in his pockets, posture relaxed. Average height, clean haircut, no mask, no theatrics. That alone told me he was dangerous. "You must be the investigator," he said. "Marlowe, I assume." He smiled without warmth. "Names are irrelevant, outcomes aren't." "Then let's start with one," I said. "What do you want from Olivia?" His head tilted. "What she owes." "She doesn't owe you a thing. You misunderstand." His voice softened. "People connected to Richard owe me. And debts don't die just because the payer does." He stepped closer. "And you're now part of that equation." Behind me, my phone buzzed, one silent notification. Run. Olivia had sent it, which meant she'd seen something. Which meant Marlowe wasn't alone. The moment I saw Olivia's one-word warning, "Run," a cold certainty settled in. Marlowe hadn't come alone, and I was already boxed in. Before we close this out, hit subscribe and smash that like. Endgames like this don't come often, and they don't come clean. Marlowe watched me read the notification. His smile widened, not cruel, confident. "You're resourceful," he said. "I respect that. But resourceful men die the same as reckless ones." I backed toward a stack of rusted crates, buying inches. "Where is your partner?" "Closer than you think." That was all I needed. I hit the side of the crate with my elbow hard. Metal clanged, echoing through the warehouse. For half a second, Marlowe's eyes flickered toward the noise, and I used it. I dove behind the crate stack and sprinted toward the exit. Gunshot. Sparks exploded off the metal beside my shoulder. So that's how they were playing it. I slid behind a support beam as another shot tore through the dark. From the direction, I pegged the second shooter somewhere on the catwalk above me. Marlowe stayed below, herding me like cattle. I pressed the radio button on my collar. "Olivia, "Are you safe?" a shaky whisper answered. "I'm in the car. Someone followed you inside. Stay down, don't move." I scanned the warehouse. Options were thin. Direct fire was suicide. Staying put was worse. So I built a third option. I grabbed the tactical flashlight from my belt, clicked it to full power, and whipped it across the room, straight at the catwalk. The beam hit the shooter dead in the eyes. He cursed, firing blind. I was already moving. I rushed the stairs leading up to the catwalk, 2 at a time. Adrenaline wiped the pain clean. At the top, the shooter was still blinking spots from his vision when I slammed into him. We struggled, metal grating under our feet, and then he slipped. One desperate grab at my jacket, and then he dropped straight onto a pile of broken pallets. He didn't get up. Marlowe shouted something furious, but I didn't wait. I vaulted over the railing, landed rough, rolled, and sprinted for the side door. More gunshots behind me, wild, desperate. I burst outside. My car was idling across the street. Olivia leaned over and threw the passenger door open. "Get in," I didn't argue. I dove inside, slammed the door, and yelled, "Drive." She hit the gas so hard the tires screamed. Marlowe didn't follow. He just stepped into the open under the warehouse light, watching us speed into the night, hands still calmly in his pockets. Predators don't chase what they can hunt later. We didn't stop until we reached the edge of the city, a vacant parking lot beside a cold river wind. Olivia was crying silently, shoulders shaking. "Is it over? Please tell me it's over." I stared through the windshield, replaying Marlowe's face, his calm, his confidence. "No," I said, "it's not over, but it's contained." "Contained? He won't touch you now, not directly. He lost a man tonight. That forces him into the shadows, and shadows slow people like him down." She wiped her eyes. "What do I do?" "You start over," I said. "New phone, new address, new habits. You stay unpredictable. That's how you survive men like him. And you? I'll file what I've got into a place he'll never reach. If anything happens to you, it goes public. He knows that now." She nodded, finally breathing again. I walked her to a rideshare pickup spot under a street lamp. As she got in, she whispered, "Thank you for not giving up." "I don't give up," I said. "I just adapt." She drove off into the dark, and I stood there alone, listening to the wind off the river, knowing Marlowe wasn't finished. He'd be back, but so would I. If you want the next case, hit subscribe and drop a like. And tell me in the comments, would you have trusted Olivia or walked away?